I'm here to kind of share a story of what happened at Virgin America and also share some best practices learned along the way. So April 4th, 2016 was a day that changed Virgin America forever. We were acquired by Alaska Airlines for $2.6 billion. So everything we knew about Virgin America was soon going to be flying into the sunset. So that included the brand, it included the product, and it also included our culture and our values. So needless to say, that was a pretty big people change within the organization. Virgin had always been known as being a disruptor within the airline industry. So we were the first to have Wi-Fi fleet-wide, the first to have mood lighting, and the first to have on-demand service. So we prided ourselves in being disruptors within the airline industry. But this disruption was one we didn't see coming, and quite frankly, a lot of us didn't have experience with it. So it got me thinking, if I were coming to this conference 2 years ago, which actually was October 4th, 2016, I would have loved to have sat in a session where there was a learning leader talking about their experience through an acquisition and how they made a change from the company that was acquired. So that's really the objective of my talk. So a couple things that I'm going to go over. Before I do that, sorry, skipped a section. So disruption's hard, and disruption's all around us. So we can take a look at Amazon. They're growing like cats and dogs. So that's exciting, but that's also disruption. If you look at SpaceX and Tesla, they're colonizing space. I mean, that's a huge, exciting thing, but that's also disruption. Toys R Us, they're in Chapter 11, reorganizing. That's huge, and that's disruption. So all of us in this room are going to experience some type of disruption. And if you're not faced with it now, it's just around the corner. And I can say personally, with our disruption, I know as a learning leader, I was not prepared. So these are the 4 things that I want to share with you from a high-level standpoint that we learned along the way. One was leadership evolution. The second one is employee engagement and well-being. The third one is internal communications and change management. And the last one is celebration and recognition. And again, this is through the lens of the company that was acquired. So leadership evolution, first of all, it kind of feels like this. So when a disruption comes or a change comes that you're not 100% sure is coming down the pike, it can feel a little chaotic. And that's where we as learning leaders really need to pull ourselves out of the tornado from time to time and ask ourselves, what's going on, what's changing, so we can get ahead of the change and help the organization move forward. And it's really, really tough to do. Also as a leader, overnight, what this looked like at Virgin America, our roles changed. We went from being a strategic thought partner, a planner, and a department of our business units to being an implementer, a doer, and a tactician. In addition, how work got done changed overnight. So, the circle of influence, circle of control. So what we were able to control before now came influence. So influencing skills is something that's very, very different than control skills. So as a learning leader, again, it's really important to zoom out of the tornado and look at how the changes are affecting the different levels of leaders in your organization so you can come up with interventions and help for the leaders. So a couple things that we did. The first thing is we had to halt all of our leadership development programs that were currently in play, because at the point, we were in a different kind of new normal. So at that point, we changed our strategy on our leadership development area to focus more on outplacement skills. We also invested in coaching, so we brought in executive coaching, we also brought in life coaches, and what's really important for those leaders who are continuing on to have assimilation coaching for your leaders. Also, bandwidth changed. So right after the close of deal, we pretty much lost our executive team. The next layer of leaders were brought up to the next level. So as a learning leader, you have to quickly react to that and figure out how you're going to figure out the skill gap for those leaders on the fly. In addition, we lost a lot of talent at the lower levels to the Googles, the Facebooks, and the Amazons. So coming up with a succession plan is really, really important before a disruption happens. So here are a couple actions to consider. First, take a look at your leadership development strategy when you're back in the office on Monday and ask yourself, can this help with a disruption? Also, take a look at your job descriptions for leaders, because if they don't have words like servant leadership, trustworthy communication, collaboration, EQ is really important because that's where you need to double down in a disruption. And also take a look at your succession planning. So the second area is engagement and well-being. What this looked like for Virgin America is whenever a disruption happens, there's going to be a grief process, or any type of change is going to be a grief process. In our world, grief looked like negativity, it looked like depression, it looked like survivor's guilt, but there was also hope and acceptance. So it's really important as a learning leader to zoom out and figure out your engagement strategies to keep people engaged within your organization. So I'll touch on two things. One thing was building communities and connection sessions. So it was really important to get people together to talk about what was going on. Because once you were able to kind of talk about how you were feeling and what you were doing, you realized that others felt the same way. So we did a lot of those connection sessions, facilitated connection sections. The other piece I want to move to is practice mindfulness. If you would have asked me 2 years ago, I would have given you a completely different answer. But now I would say mindfulness during a disruption is probably one of the most important things you can do. Because teammates right in front of you were deteriorating. They were going down a negative rabbit hole and there was nothing you can do to pull them back. But bringing in a really comprehensive mindfulness program such as meditation, yoga, workshops on finding your passion could have really helped. So here's your action item. First of all, take a look at your engagement strategy. If it's just a survey, you need to work on it. Also, if you're interested in mindfulness, reach out to companies who are doing it today and ask them to get their perspective. So internal communications and change, this is huge, and we can spend a day on this topic, but I'll just touch on a couple things. As the learning leader within your organization during a time of disruption, this is critical. First of all, we sit on a gold mine of data as learning leaders. So it's important to make sure that information gets up to the right venues in order to help manage the change. Also, being visible, going out and talking to people and truly listening, because I truly think having your finger on the pulse is more than just looking at survey results. It's actually going out and having face-to-face conversations with folks, asking them, how are you doing, how are you feeling, and what could we be doing to make this better? And then also encouraging your peers to do the same. For us, change management, we did change management and internal communication on many different levels. We sent emails out, we had an intranet, we had microsites, but where we found it was most effective was boots on the ground with leaders. So as learning leaders, it's really important to make sure that you've set your leaders at all levels, frontline supervisors to executives, to know what to do in a disruption or a change and how to effectively communicate and get their teams aligned. I would almost recommend, I'm sure all of us have emergency response plans at our jobs and in our organizations. It's that important to make sure that you've got like a communication and an internal emergency response plan that has specific tools that your leaders can pull out that shows them how to communicate, agendas to use, questions to use, but also just as importantly, how to get that information to the people where you can get the accurate responses. So when you go back to work on Monday, a couple action items for you. First of all, trust is going to be huge. So it's going to be hard to communicate your message without trust. So if your trust index is high, that is awesome. Congratulations. If your trust index is medium to low, that's something to work on immediately, because in a disruption, that's going to accelerate. Also, pick up the phone, call your VP of internal comm or your director of internal comm, and just go, "Hi, I'm Deborah. I so am a big fan of what you do, and during a change, I want to be involved." You really get that connection with internal communications. And then the more you can build tactical toolkits for your managers and supervisors and leaders, boots on the ground to help you with your change, the better. So more tactical tools. So the last area I want to touch on is celebrations and recognition. And this is something that Virgin America is known for, but also that we did really, really well. You know, we tried to celebrate every single thing that we could and that we could find. And so what that looked like, and celebrations were big and small. So we would bring food truck to headquarters. We would do surprise and delights where we would have ice cream trolleys. We would also take teams out to the theater. We would take teams out to Warriors games, but we would really try to do things to surprise and delight our team members just to keep them motivated and encouraged every single day. The other thing that, to look at it a little bit differently, is design experiences that you normally wouldn't design for. So for an example, we ended up offboarding probably around 200 teammates from our support center. And we wanted to do something a little bit differently. We wanted to make sure that we celebrated them and that we had fun along the way. So we reinvented our mass offboarding process. You know, it included everything from bringing Lee Heck and Harrison in to do workshops. It included the state of California to talk about unemployment. It included a big rockin' party for all of our teammates who were leaving, as well as teammates who were continuing on with Alaska, just to celebrate them. And on the last day, on their official last day, we had an offboarding expo. And that's where we brought everybody in to celebrate the people who were leaving. It was almost like your last day at high school. You sign your yearbook and get a gift and just really celebrate each other's. But try to find moments that celebrate and recognize everybody's contributions. And then the last thing I'll say is disruption, although it can be really, really hard, but it's also a gift. You can learn so much along the way if you turn it into a learning laboratory. And you know, ask yourself each day what worked, what didn't work, and what am I going to do differently? And also if you encourage those people around you to do the same. Thank you.